So in what has been a busy week for the Constitutional Court, two major judgments have been delivered with far-reaching consequences for the country. On Tuesday, the court found former President Jacob Zuma guilty of contempt and sentenced him to an effective 15 months in jail. Yesterday, another majority bench rejected Public Protector Busisiwe Mkhwebane's appeal against a High Court ruling that set aside her report on President Cyril Ramaphosa's CR17 ANC campaign. So on the one hand, the judiciary has been praised for upholding the law, while the identity of Ramaphosa's donors will remain a mystery for the majority of those who voted for him. The Constitutional Court has ruled that the High Court, however, should make a finding on whether politicians should be obliged to declare donations for political campaigns within their parties. So it's a busy week politically in the courts as well. Joining us now to unpack these developments is independent political analyst McKinley. Dale, it's great to talk to you this morning. Wow, what a mouthful for what has been an incredibly week in the Constitutional Court. Let's begin with that decision around former President Jacob Zuma this morning. You know, as we count down to those 5 days that the court said he had before he should hand himself over to police, we're now getting to sort of the final 2 days, if my counting is correct. How do we understand this decision by the Constitutional Court and what it means and how it might impact on, for example, the state capture inquiry?
Well, I think we should understand it as a vindication of the rule of law. This fundamentally, I mean, all of the different elements to Zuma's conduct over the last many years, and particularly in the last year and a half or so with regards to his conduct in front of the Zondo Commission, accumulates or basically makes us feel, I think, as though we have a situation in which this decision, I think, encompasses so much other behavior. So Zuma is sort of representative of an entire trajectory of behavior from many people who've appeared in front of the Zondo Commission, which is in somewhat an arrogance and a contempt for the rule of law, to basically say, well, do what you can, I don't really care. And Zuma has made this very clear. And the Constitutional Court finally, after many attempts to try to get ex-President Zuma to cooperate, has said that's enough. You are in contempt of court, and it's not just because you didn't want to cooperate, but it's the manner in which you've attacked the judiciary, which you attempt to undermine the integrity of the Constitutional Court. And if this had been allowed to go, essentially, then we'd have had a very slippery slope here. So I think it's a fundamentally important decision. It's not simply about the persona of Jacob Zuma. It's about our entire Constitution and our entire legal system.
And it must surely also be about the people who are very similar to the former president in high-profile, high-ranking positions, also facing serious allegations of corruption, for example. You know, one just wonders what is going through their minds in terms of how strongly the court spoke out about his conduct insofar as respect for the rule of law is concerned.
Absolutely. I mean, we can have many different examples of other politicians that are, I think, running a bit scared at the moment, and they should be, because what their tactic has been basically attack, undermine, make it appear as though they are above the law. And here's an indication that they're not. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how powerful you are. And that's the foundational bedrock of our Constitution, which is equality before the law. So in this case, I think it's what the Zondo Commission has done, has put this at front and center and used it as an example of saying, look, this is a cliff. If we go over this cliff, we're in big trouble as a country. And that's why the Constitutional Court ruling sends a particular message to all people. Whether or not they end up in jail or not is not the real issue. It's that they have to be accountable, that there cannot be total impunity in this country when you act like that.
So, you know, obviously from what you're saying, far-reaching implications in terms of the legal realm, let's say, not least of which the political realm as well, this decision from the Constitutional Court.
Absolutely, because I think, you know, we are a representative democracy. We live in a country where we elect our leadership, and we basically, if we don't like what they do, or at least the possibility is that they will leave office. And so what this does is the electorate is watching this. All indications are that the majority of the population in South Africa supports this kind of decision, supports the rule of law. and does not want politicians to act with impunity. So this is not simply about Jacob Zuma and his persona and trying to avoid charges around the arms deal. It's about local councillors who are stealing from the budget. It's about premier and all sorts of politicians from the smallest to the largest who are taking us for a ride and basically saying, catch us if you can.
Yeah.
And the Constitutional Court is saying, we're after you now.
Yeah. I mean, if we talk about factional battles within the ANC, as we try to unpack the political implications of what's happened in the courts this week, already at the start of the week with that first decision by the Constitutional Court around Jacob Zuma, the, shall we say, Ramaphosa faction already looking much, much stronger in the wake of that decision. Fast forward just a couple of days, and he's looking stronger still.
Yes, I mean, look, the other ruling on his campaign, I think, was expected. And it's not so much, I think it's important, as you mentioned in the primer, which is that the Constitutional Court has said the High Court must review the Executive Act in terms of the remuneration and what's the donations. But in relation to the conduct of the Public Protector, once again, we have a situation where the law is basically saying, if you're going to make a case out, well, then make it properly, and then we'll consider it that way. So I think in the context of the politics, yes, Ramaphosa certainly has got the hand, but he might have some things to answer for himself. And what the message is it doesn't matter whether one day you're up, the next day in court you might lose. And that's okay, because that's the nature of the legal system, is that it's not about winning in court, it's about upholding the law. It doesn't matter whether you're ex-President Zuma, it doesn't matter whether you're President Ramaphosa, we're all the same. And I think that's the key message, irrespective of what it might look like right now politically in terms of balance within the ANC.
Yeah. Del, just explain to us, so the High Court must now make a finding on whether politicians must be obliged to declare donations for political campaigns within their parties. How might this decision, whichever way it goes in the High Court, still affect Ramaphosa?
Well, of course, what it could do is it could lead from anything from embarrassment, because obviously you'd have to disclose some of the funders, to questions of undue influence, to conflicts of interest. I mean, these have been surrounding President Ramaphosa for not just recently, but for quite some time, back to the Marikana massacre and his involvement with the Lonmin company and so forth and so on. So these are fundamentally important things. This is another constitutional imperative, which is transparency and accountability. And I think if the ruling was that the executive, that you must show who you get your money from and where the donations are, we already have the Political Party Funding Act. But this, I think, would be an important element in strengthening our democracy and strengthening our accountability, and once again showing that it doesn't make a difference how popular you are or how influential you are. We all are the same under the law. And I think that, again, is the key message, politically as well as legally.
Yeah, absolutely. Transparency and accountability. I think that's definitely something the South African public is yearning for. Let's just shift tack for a moment and go to the Public Protector. Yet another scathing decision by the Constitutional Court in terms of her incorrect application of the law.
Yeah, it's piling up, isn't it? I mean, I think we've lost count in terms of the number of cases that the Public Protector has lost, predominantly based upon her own conduct and seemingly lack of legal expertise or research or understanding of the law, according to the courts. So it's very worrying. This has been a case for some time, but I think the previous indication of the cartoons and the sense that people have that what is her agenda? I think that's the question that many people are asking. I mean, one can indicate that there have been mistakes and there might be some bad decisions that have been made, but it seems as though there's a continuous pattern of this, which has nothing to do with really pursuing her mandate, but has everything to do with pursuing a political agenda in support of certain factional interests within the ruling party.
I mean, it's disheartening, isn't it? In the midst of a devastating third wave of COVID-19 around the country, there are still these almost basic issues that we're still dealing with, Dale?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, it's bad enough, as you say, to deal with the restrictions and the lockdowns and the health implications and to try to survive a very difficult socioeconomic period. It's a whole nother matter when your political class and your officials in the state, which are supposed to carry out their basic mandates, are simply moving in the opposite direction. Yeah. And I think that's the other side of this coin of what COVID has surfaced, is that we need to have a capable state. We need to have a capable state, whether it's in the health sector and running our hospitals, whether it's in the delivery of basic services, whether it's in pursuing corruption. These are the basics of a constitutional state. And if we don't uphold those pillars, and if we don't strengthen those pillars, then all of our efforts on the other fronts will be undermined.
Yeah, absolutely. Del McKinley, thanks very much for your time this morning on the AM Report. It's been a pleasure talking to you. He is a researcher and education officer at the International Labour Research and Information Group, political analyst as well. Thanks for your inputs on this story.